Have you ever wondered why we do what we do? How the mind works, how that plays into who we are, how we perceive things, how we react to things, and the whole world around us?
Or how we've all been socialized, because socialization plays a huge part in why we act the way we do, or why we respond the way we do. We've been socialized in schools. How you need to act.
Right. How you sit, when you talk, when you don't talk. Can you go to the bathroom? Can you not? What to wear? How to speak to your elders?
Yes.
Or not speak to your elders?
Absolutely. We've also been socialized in our families. What is appropriate to do when you go out to dinner? We've been socialized even as far as some families believe you do not get on an airplane unless you are in your nicest clothes possible, where other families may find that is not important.
Right, where what's comfortable. And depending on what culture you're from, what part of the country, what's appropriate or what's not. Where do women walk compared to men? Some cultures, a woman would never walk side by side with a man, let alone carry a job or a position. It's all socialized. It's based off of the surroundings that dictate what's appropriate and what's not. And we come to believe them based off of what we're taught. But just because we're taught it doesn't mean that it's right. Understanding how the mind works will help us see what maybe we don't see all the time that we should, because of the way the mind filters through the experiences that we have and the input that comes in.
If you think of how we are socialized, our brain will then focus on those beliefs that we have and we have been trained and been taught in our homes or in the society that we live in. If you think about your brain, our brains are amazing. Our brain puts millions of pieces of information every second of every day, 24 hours a day, nonstop. That's pretty crazy what it can put in and filter.
Thank heavens we don't have to remember it all the time or we'd go crazy, because every time the fan kicked on, if I had to hear that, and every time the, a ball rolled across the floor or the wind brushed on my arm and every single hair on my arm fluttered and fluttered, I'd think there were ants crawling me all the time. And thank heavens we do not have to pay attention to that until there is actually an ant crawling on my arm. And then my brain better darn well make me aware of it so I can flick it off, because I do not like bugs.
That is exactly what your brain will do. Your brain will tell you what's important and what is not. And your brain will filter out things that are not of value to you, like the wind blowing on your arm, if it is not of value. There are 4 things that your brain will watch out for. 1, is it of value? Well, things that might be of value would be maybe a hobby. If you love to go mountain biking, you might walk outside and be like, this is the perfect day to go on a mountain bike ride. That is something your brain is alerting you to, because that is of value to you as a person.
Right. It's going to watch for it.
Another thing your brain will also be aware of is a threat. We all have probably had an experience of being burnt, whether it's being burnt by a curling iron, whether it's being burnt on the stove. Unless you have had that experience, you don't even know that that's a threat. Unless, of course, you have been warned.
But even if you're warned, it doesn't mean that you understand what that means. Your mom can say, don't touch the stove. But really, until you touch the stove and your hand recoils because it's burned and now it's blistered and ointment and hurts for days and the skin comes off, you just don't know.
You're right. You absolutely don't. But if you've experienced that and you then start walking up to a stove and you see something's boiling and you're about to go grab a pot, not thinking, and then all of a sudden your brain's like, wait a minute, that could be a threat. You have been burned by that. And then it brings to your conscious mind, okay, hang on, don't go ahead and grab that.
Right. I love the little guy in my head who warns me of all these things. There is an official term for it. It's called your reticular formation. It's that part of your brain that monitors what's happening and tells you if it's important or not. If it's not, it just sends it off to the memory banks. If it is important, it's going to send it to your conscious mind. It's going to alert you to it, and it's going to be hot and fiery in the mind. All the emotions are going to scream with it, or it's just going to be a calm, oh, hey, by the way, just conscious awareness, cute guy to the right, you're going to look. The mind is amazing that way. So is it a value to us? Is it a threat? The other thing?
Anything unusual.
Yeah.
How many times can you as, I would say, a parent, or if you've been raised in a home with lots of loud noises, you can filter out and not even hear the noise and the chaos. Where some other people that have been raised in a very small home, they can't filter out any of that because that's unusual to them. It's just not normal for them.
Right. Take the guy sitting behind the mother on a plane, and the mother's got a crying baby, and one guy is furious and shut the baby up, being rude, all of that kind of stuff, which of course makes the woman on the plane even more uncomfortable. And then her emotion makes the baby even more uncomfortable. And then there's parents also next to that who just really, oh, it's a baby. It's okay. Mom's got baby. Let it go. And they can sleep through it.
Tune it out.
Tune it out. The difference is what the mind sees as normal, unusual. Is it a threat? Now, if that baby started screaming bloody murder, I guarantee you anybody who had toned it out would instantaneously be, oh my gosh, what's going on? How can I help?
Yes, because it's an unusual cry. It is something different than the norm or something different that is normal to you.
Right. And then the other thing, is it a special need? You think about when you're ready to buy a new car and you start looking at cars everywhere and you have your eye on one particular one, and then you're going to see them everywhere. Maybe not when you're first looking for them, but once you buy that car, how many of you have bought a car and then all of a sudden you see all of those cars everywhere and you're like, really? I didn't get such an unusual car. Maybe I got the wrong thing, because the mind is seeing all of it.
Why does everyone have my car?
Exactly. So the mind is very powerful. The information, again, as it comes in, is it a value? Is it a threat? Is it unusual? Is it a special need? And when that information comes in, our little friend in the mind,
our security.
Our security guard, our reticular formation is going to go through and say, send it to the subconscious mind. I don't need it. It's going to put it in the memory bank, or it's going to send it to the conscious mind. And this is so important to understand because communication relies on this. Is it important to you or not?
I think if we can look at our brains kind of like a hard drive, our brains are like a computer. And it stores every piece of data that goes in. The amazing part about our brain is it records two things. One, your brain will record something that it sees, an event that it sees exactly how it happened and exactly how it occurred. Your brain will also record the exact same perception of what it saw based off your beliefs or your
experience, your socialization.
Your socialization.
Right. Because if you're socialized to you're not supposed to fight, right? And anytime somebody raises their voice, you're immediately cowering down. I don't want to fight. I'm not supposed to. That's bad. You're going to start into this reaction sequence that says, okay, I've got to fix something. Well, the person who is maybe getting upset or frustrated, maybe their situation was, no, when we're communicating, you engage, you talk to me. This is important. And you're ignoring me. And these two dynamics coming at each other, both experiencing the exact same thing, are going to have the complete opposite memory of what happened.
The way they were raised, the way they were socialized will filter in and out what they do or do not see when communicating or our relationships. Our beliefs that we have, we will act 100% congruent to our beliefs that we have.
Right. Known or unknown, true or false. The brain knows and it's operating. So the key to good communication is knowing how to understand the brain, how to access all of the information that came in, not just what you thought it was based off of your beliefs. You've got to see all of it. So sometimes we draw closure.
Right.
Closure is a tough one, because if I'm talking to somebody and they're not paying attention to me, and I draw closure that they just don't care, they're not listening to me, you're not engaging with me, I'm going to get frustrated, I'll get mad, I'll get defensive, do it enough, and I think you don't love me, you don't care. And think about the devastation to a relationship if that goes on.
Yes, and especially if that is the perception you have, that they don't care, you then will slowly, you're starting to build evidence. You have put that thought in your mind that, oh, this person does not care and he's not listening. Your mind now has a thought in your head. Oh, does this person really not care? And any little thing that somebody does that you perceive to show that they do not care is more evidence that your brain puts in. And that is what your little security guard takes, files it away and says, see, he does not care. And eventually it will become a filter that will block you from seeing what the truth is really.
Right. And the person on the other side who was just listening and being quiet and attentive was showing love, care, and value based off of their belief and operating system of the mind, that that's how you behave to show love. They're so different that how do you not end up in conflict because of how different they are? I mean, you think about the way we were raised, the way mom and dad showed love and care and compassion, and that we were smart or not smart, how we perceive things will determine whether we see it.
I will share a vulnerable story that I had growing up. As you all know, I have talked about me being ADD. My friends do laugh and chuckle, and they can see how many times I squirrel or how many times that I can just all of a sudden go off topic.
Shiny.
When going through high school, I will describe what it was like for me. I did not recognize I was ADD. In my home, we had to have a certain grade point average to get your driver's license. Well, I wasn't getting that. I wasn't getting my perfect grade point average of a 3.0 or 3.5. I don't even remember what it was. I was not getting that, so I could not get my driver's license. I remember one semester I said, I am going to do this. Now, no, every now and then as school is going and I'm having all this stuff to show that my grades aren't great, so something must be wrong with you. Maybe you're not smart. Maybe you can't get through this. So I decided, Ruth, you're going to do this. You're going to get your driver's license. You're going to work so hard. I worked so hard, but I failed. And I thought, I was so stupid and I couldn't get my driver's license. That to me was evidence that I must not be very smart because I could not get the GPA I needed to do it. So from that point on, I slowly started building evidence to show why I wasn't smart, why I couldn't do things, which stopped me from meeting and showing the capacity of what I could do. But the part that we didn't realize is how ADD I was, and it was so hard for me to focus. Now that I'm older and I've realized how to manage my ADD and recognize that it doesn't have to stop me, it doesn't have to keep me from being who I want to be, but it took me time and hurt. I went through a therapy session with my mom, and I came down to a core belief that I was stupid. And my mom sat there with me. She says, Ruth, let's go through all the evidence as to why you're stupid. I listed all the reasons why I was stupid. I had a good case for why I was stupid. And she says to me, okay, well, Ruth, tell me all the evidence to say why you wouldn't be stupid. I sat there. I couldn't come up with anything. Nothing came to my mind. My mom said to me at that point, Ruth, if you can just sit for a minute, sometimes it takes that maybe there's a possibility you are not stupid. And maybe that can start to change the belief or the filter in you that causes you to think that you are. That day forward it was an impact for me because that's exactly what my brain started to let me do. You guys, I was never stupid. I'm actually not stupid.
That is true.
And that sounds so funny to say, but I really believed I was stupid, and it kept me from being successful because everybody will act congruent to a belief they have, whether they know it is a belief that is in their conscious or unconscious mind.
Yeah. And the tough thing for you, I mean, the second daughter in the family is valedictorian and 4.0. And I mean, when it comes to book smart, she could do anything. You take enough of that around you, and then you're just struggling to stay focused. I can totally see how easy it would be to adopt that belief. But none of us, ironically, ever thought you were stupid. We just thought you were having way too much fun all the time, that you were more focused on that.
Well, I was having fun. I am not going to lie. But it did stop me. But the great part was, as soon as I realized there was a filter that kept me to be who I really am and who I can be, I could not physically see it. That little man in my brain, the security guard said, nope, there's more evidence why you are stupid. But as soon as she opened the door to get me to think maybe not, the evidence came pouring in as to why I'm not stupid. All the things that I am accomplishing and have accomplished and am still accomplishing.
Right. And you are, quite frankly, one of the best friends of every best friends person. I mean, you connect and bond with people in a way like no other. You're attentive, you listen, you engage, you have a talent that goes beyond probably any of the siblings. You are the favorite aunt. We all know you're the favorite aunt. Nobody will contest that at all. And you can't be stupid and be the favorite aunt. I'm telling you.
Exactly. And I'm not. But it was so amazing to see how a belief will govern the way somebody will act.
So as we look at this and we think about our own lives and the information that comes at us, the communication that we have with different people, whether it's at home or at work, on the street, how are we filtering that information? You know, what do we have as our alert system? What do we have as our value markers that are going to send the information either into storage or actually let it hit the conscious mind? And so as we're looking at this from a relationship standpoint, we want to say, how do I take my life and make it a hypothesis like Mom did with you? Maybe I'm not stupid. Right. Well, you know, if you're struggling with something, well, maybe I do have talents there that I don't see. Or maybe the person does love me. Is there something that I'm missing? And as you start to put these little ideas in your mind as new alerts, new values, then your mind can actually start sending those to the front screen of your computer instead of just hovering in the back mode and in the storage of our mind. That lets us improve the relationship and go forward.
I think one of the biggest gifts you can give somebody is to help them recognize that anytime they walk in and they see something and they think they know exactly what's happening, to never draw closure. It could be as simple as you walk into your home. Everybody's going to be gone. No one's going to be home. And you walk in and there's some boy in your house climbing up on top of your cupboard, getting cookies out of the cupboard. What is your first initial reaction going to be?
Oh no, is he stealing my cookies?
Exactly. But you know what? Our brains have to make sense of what is happening. So because of our brain has to come up with an ending story, our conclusion as to why somebody's doing something, because it can't make sense of it, it will come up with its own story. The best gift you can give somebody is to come up with 5, 6, 7 stories as to why that person might be doing it. Because I can guarantee you, 99% of the time, you will be inaccurate at what you are perceiving is happening.
Maybe, one of the kids sent their friend over to grab something and they really weren't going for cookies. They were going for the plate that they needed for school. Why else? What other reason might there be for him to be getting into the cupboard?
Right. Maybe your mother is in the backyard with a bunch of other kids and she says, look, my back door is open. No one's going to be home. Go in and grab all those cookies. You guys have been so awesome. Go get the cookies. There's so many reasons and so many options. And that is one thing I think you can give any person is the ability to never draw closure. And that our perception, because we all have perceptions, based on how we were socialized, based on our beliefs we have about ourselves, based on the beliefs that we have about others, we will act congruent to them and we will see them with a filter. So I'm inviting you all to recognize our perceptions are not always accurate. And if you can just have a hypothesis in your mind or a question in your mind, is it possible I am not seeing this accurately?
And with that, as you learn to take charge of your mind, taking control of what you're filtering and how you're seeing it, like you said, our communication styles can improve. we can have our internal operating system function the way we want it to. And that's going to be what we talk about next.